We are going to read a DM that we've received because our topic today is what do you do when people express concerns about your relationship? Some things I can observe on Twitter have me just a little concerned, not from you, but from your partner. I've had a nagging gut feeling that's been rubbing me a little wrong about certain things I do see. I read this message to my love last night at the dinner table. How does it make you feel, baby?
This one in particular really hit me different. And I think a huge reason for that was because the conversation we had a few hours prior, I think we're like making the bed or something in the bedroom. And I said, there's a point of just questioning and a little bit concerning for me, but then just something I kind of put to the wayside the rest of the day. But then, of course, that's how the universe works. Like they put that on your awareness and then they give you an example. They show you where you're unfree until you're free, pretty much. And they'll keep on reminding you, they'll show you signs. And that night is when you read this to me and I was like, oh my God.
He didn't consider that people might take some of his tweets directed at me to be disrespectful. And that's like the last thing that he would not only want, but he doesn't do that. Like he's not disrespectful to me at all. And I think that's something I want to address now because I want to speak directly from my experience. I just want to share some of the concerns this woman raised. You're probably listening to this and thinking, oh, she's just like completely been manipulated. She's been brainwashed. She can't see it. Like he wants to like keep her in the kitchen or something. I don't cook.
I tell her to stay out of the kitchen.
You don't want me in there.
I've seen what happens when she's in there. I'm like, there's much better uses of our time.
Welcome back to Listen Before Love. We are back again, favorite sweet.
So excited for this one. This is going to be juicy.
This one is going to be juicy. We are doing something we have never done before on the pod. We are going to read a DM that we've received because our topic today is what do you do when people express concerns about your relationship? And if you didn't put together the pieces yet, somebody DM'd me. I'll bring you to the story. As y'all know, I love being on all the different social medias, and I love Twitter and or X, whatever we're calling it these days. I love going on there. I write on there. I have a pretty good, I would say, a pretty locked in following on there, like where I feel people have gone on this journey with me over the last couple of years, and people feel really connected to me in a way where if they see something in my life and they want to bring my attention to it or express a concern, or they see a story that resonates with them, or something that makes them feel like, oh, wait, I got to message her about this, make sure she's okay. They really take it upon themselves to do that. And I'm very, very grateful to have people in my corner who care so deeply about me and would even bring a concern to me. It takes so much courage to bring concerns to friends, family members, or anyone in your life. So I just want to first start by saying thank you to this amazing woman. Of course, we will keep her anonymous, who had the courage to DM me yesterday and express this concern so that I had a chance to respond to it. Cam had a chance to respond to it, and we could film this live. So I think this is going to be incredibly cathartic, and we're going to put so much of our hearts and souls into this one so you can really feel us and transfer our knowing and energy of our beautiful relationship through the screen. And if not, that's okay too. But my highest intention for this episode is to give you an inside look into how a couple deals with this situation, with someone reaching out and saying, hey, I have a red flag here, just want to bring it to you. So without further ado, I'm going to read the DM, and then we should give some context.
I love it. Do you want to first preface the previous DMs that was sent by this person?
Yes.
Before like this more recent one that has like more of a story. Exactly.
Yes. So just to give you some brief context, this is a woman who sent me a DM last year, right when Cam and I were becoming more serious. I think that we had known each other for a couple of months. If you know our story, we moved very fast, faster than the average bird, and it did cause a lot of alarms until people spent time with us in person. So we moved so fast that like Cam's parents booked a trip out here to see me and make sure I wasn't some like scam artist or something trying to take advantage of this sweet man. My parents did the same thing. Multiple friends reached out and tried to make sure that like we weren't being conned by each other. So we are no stranger to people raising these concerns. I will just say it's not just this woman. There were other people, women, men, children coming out of the woodwork to be like, hello, what's going on over here? But I just want to start by saying that because last year, because we're so willing to share our experiences online, I had shared a lot of Cam and my journey, and I had made a couple of tweets about buying our house, which we have now purchased and decorated thanks to my mom, and it's really amazing. But of course, from the outside, people are seeing that I'm buying a house with a man who I met maybe, I think, was it 2 or 3 months before?
2 or 3 months before.
2 or 3 months before.
And
barely.
Also, this man is 5 years younger, 25.
Yeah.
And you know, I was 24 at the time. You're 29.
Yeah.
And I, at that time, had no quote unquote job, had just moved to Austin from the other side of the world. Mm-hmm. I was a red flag factory. And you like freely wrote about it, and I did too. But just, you said all these things with this rose-colored glasses, these tweets like, oh, he just moved from, across the world, this and that. And so when something is written on paper, people don't feel the energy behind it. And all they see is exactly what they're reading. And it makes complete sense why there's cause for concern.
Right.
Because on paper, it feels like a huge red flag. And like, it's just wild to think.
On
like,
both sides.
If like your stats, if your attributes were put on a piece of paper, how different people would perceive you as opposed to being in front of you and feeling you. And thankfully, that's the exact same responses we got from family, because at first it was red flag, what are you doing, on both sides, like you said. But then once they met us, literally within a minute of just feeling our energy in person, you can just see in their minds, in their hearts, in their bodies, just like this like alleviated exhale take place. And I understand that people online that, I mean, you have, she was trying to like make it more casual, but she's pretty famous on X.
Come on.
And like,
don't be crazy.
Now, is she have like tens of millions of followers? No. But she has over 10,000, like 13,000 ride or die fans. I've been around a lot of content creators and influencers in my life. I've never seen anyone with a more ride or die fan base than you. And I think there's a multitude of reasons why it's the case. But the number one reason is because you tweet from the heart. You share stories from the heart, and people can feel it, and they really just, after one story, you become ride or die for you. And so it makes sense why so many people, especially women that were in a very similar situation that you were in when you were single, who follow you, see me come in and kind of sweep you off your feet.
Yeah.
And in their mind, sweep you away from old beliefs, old jobs, old ways of life. And they're just like, what's going on here?
Makes complete sense.
Whether it's their own personal history where something like that happens badly, or they just turn on Netflix and YouTube and they see this is the start of whatever it is. It makes sense when they haven't experienced something like it themselves. They have a cause for concern. And so I'm very grateful for this woman who seems to have been a huge fan of you for a long, long time, a very loyal, supporting
very sweet
follower. And I feel like if she lived here in Austin and we were good friends, I think she'd just be a great person to hang out with. Like I really do like her. And it makes complete sense why she's bringing this to Elle's attention. I'm very grateful that you have people in your corner, whether you know them or not. But these people that have been following you on the internet that are really ride or die for you, that if they see anything that's questioning or concerning, they'll bring it up to your attention. That's huge. Most people don't have that. That's incredible.
Absolutely. And why we're giving this context is because last year, let's rewind the clock, she had actually messaged me expressing concern about our relationship about a year ago. And this was about maybe 2-3 months in when we were talking about buying a house. And that one was more just like, hey, super friendly. This is a very kind, wonderful soul. And she's like, hey, just checking in because, it seems like things are moving really fast. And I just want to make sure that, this isn't one of those relationships that like switches up at the 4-month mark, because I personally had a relationship where things were looking really amazing. We were so in sync. And then he just abruptly flipped and became a different person. And I just want to make sure that that doesn't happen to you. And how do you know that's not happening? And I remember, this is kind of funny, I got the DM, thought it was so sweet, accepted the message request, and then forgot to answer. So I just want to say publicly, I'm so sorry for that. I completely forgot to answer.
And like a week later, you followed her?
Yeah, because I was
still didn't respond.
And I forgot. So I'm so sorry.
So funny.
You know who you are if you're listening to this. And so it was so sweet, and I so appreciated that. And then a couple months ago, she had sent me a DM saying like, this is going to be an episode because it's a really good DM. And she's like, I had a partner in the past who would essentially use spiritual words or like the mirror exercise or the idea that if someone triggers you, it's something to look at within yourself, which is all valid. People will use that for nefarious purposes and for control. And she was basically saying, I had a partner who did that to avoid accountability. Can you talk about how to spot that, advice for that, what you would do in that situation? So really, really good DM. We haven't gotten to that one yet, but if that one would resonate and hit, please let us know. Happy to talk about that. So why I'm sharing this context is because this isn't the first time this woman has expressed concern. And so I'm going to read last night's DM. While we're sitting at the dinner table, I get this and I make a joke. I was just like, oh, yet another person who's questioning you. And then Cam's like, oh, what do you mean? And I'm like, and he's like, what, you? And I'm like, no, you. And he's like, oh, no, you gotta be kidding me. So I read him the DM, and I'm going to pull out my phone and read it for you all now. So let's get into it. This is a little long, so please excuse my read. I'm going to try to make this as engaging as possible. Elle, girl, I'm sorry, but I gotta say something. I admire your fundamental values and what you stand for, and I think you're a wonderful builder. Love your podcast with your boyfriend and the work you're doing. But sometimes, some things I can observe on Twitter have me just a little concerned. Not from you, but from your partner. And it just eerily resembles a dynamic that I am personally familiar with, but for all I know, my concerns could be unfair, given I don't know either of you, and it's not my business. She's funny. However, I've had a nagging gut feeling that's been rubbing me a little wrong about certain things I do see. I just want to say that you are wonderfully inspired and you are a builder. It's not just that men are the leaders and builders. You are a leader and builder too, and you beautifully embody leadership in a very feminine, energy-forward kind of way. And I hope your light is never dimmed or controlled by a partner, or that you ever feel like you have to take the back seat. I truly apologize if this is an unfair projection or if I'm out of line. I just wanted to voice some support for you and your sense of self and your thoughts, principles, capabilities, and ideas, independent of anyone else. I think what felt like a straw, where I wanted to say something, was just this tweet of his felt ironic and disrespectful to you to see. I feel like you had a legitimate point as an experienced community builder, and I imagine the people in your life have been directly benefiting from your community building. Should we pause there to give context on what that means?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, and then I'm going to read the rest. It's not finished yet. So earlier that day, this is just so funny how the world unfolds. So earlier that day, Cam had replied to a tweet that I had made where I basically said something along the lines of, if you are scrolling through your feed and you see someone doing really good work and you lurk it and are thinking to yourself, wow, that looks so amazing, but you don't support it, that could mean that you have a block that is blocking you from success. And so if you celebrate the work of others, you will be celebrated in return. And I only share this from my own personal experience because years ago when I had a very hard time with competition and wanting to be the best and not believing that like everyone could win, I would have these moments where I'd be scrolling and thinking to myself, oh my gosh, like that person's doing such incredible work. I could do that. I'm not going to like their stuff. So I'm just going to lurk them and like pretend I'm not seeing it, but I'm like kind of obsessed with them. So I used to do that myself. And so I just wanted to tweet that. Now, Cam replied saying, do you remember?
I don't remember you said.
Oh my gosh.
I don't
So
remember fully. I don't want to butcher it.
He replied saying something it was a couple words all in like a normal sentence. So it kind of looked serious. He was like, I think it's so totally okay to support without actively responding.
Yeah, that's it. Can I go
Period.
for a second?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so her post, her tweet made, I think, perfect sense. And also knowing her, she is like the most supportive person I've ever seen online. She's been digitally native ever since you're like 7 maybe?
Yeah.
And
back in the Neopets
there's
days.
many, we can get into the whole Elle lore, but she has so many just fascinating online journeys.
Really did.
When it comes to like being one of the top lyric producers for songs, like a new song comes out, she rushes to the computer to type in the lyrics for the entire thing, like listen to it, make sure she gets the words right, put that out there. Those get millions of views.
Yep.
That happened for years at like a young age.
Middle school.
She was in like these random chat rooms with like just people from all over the world to talk about like history and philosophy. And she's a unique cookie, but let's just say she's incredibly native when it comes to social media, when it comes to the internet. And as you can see, if you look at her Twitter, she is incredibly, incredibly supportive for everything she sees. She's replying to everyone in the most like loving way, and just how she like messages. I remember like the first text message she sent me, it's like in all caps for no reason, but just like her little twists on things that I've grown like to just love. I've always loved, but it's just like, it's so different and you're so incredibly supportive. And so when I saw that, I was like, wait, does she not understand like it's okay to just observe without needing to like and then like comment like yes queen, whatever it would be in, like in all caps.
Oh yeah.
And so
yeah.
And so in my mind, and do I think like I was in the most loving mood in the world when I sent this? No, I was definitely more in like a well actually mood. Well actually. But it was very much like whatever I said there, it was to be like, not everyone needs to, support in that way. You can just observe and do that, because I know for myself, I was a ride or die for a lot of, especially when I was younger, in my teenage years, like YouTube vloggers, like Christian Guzman, Max Tuning. I loved them to death. I don't think I liked a single video. I don't think I commented once. I think I did, however, buy like their like clothes they put out and stuff like that. But online, I just wasn't supportive at all. And I looked at that as just like, oh, it's just not a habit. Oftentimes you need to build a habit of engaging on these platforms. And so the text I was trying to send, or the reply I was trying to send to that post you made, was just kind of expressing that side of it. But I see how, especially if I don't really provide context, there's no like laughing emoji or anything like that, or smile, whatever. It's just like one pure sentence. I can definitely see how people would take that as like, I'm subtly digging you or trying to like dunk on you or something. And yeah, it brought up a lot of things for me, which we'll go in just a second after we talk a little bit more about this. But it brought up a lot of things for me, and that I realized like, oh my gosh, you have so many fans, and that I need to be very conscious of how I engage with the internet in general, but especially on your thing, because what would work and what I know you'd understand as just like part of our daily banter and like how we communicate, put on paper, just like what we said with our parents earlier, just the finite details, the words on paper, it's going to be taken a different way than if they felt our energy as we're having a conversation.
Yeah.
So I just want to share that as you, do you want to finish the?
Yes. And I think what's important is that on anything online, people can't hear your tone and people can't feel your energy. They get to like the tiniest bit of your energy, and then they read the words they're seeing in their voice or in the voice of someone that you remind them of. And you just can't predict how someone's going to read your words, right? But I think it's interesting that this specific woman has had a partner that in some ways maybe reminded her of Cam, whether it's in the length of the relationship, the guy who like was in the relationship for 4 months and then flipped. Who knows whose voice she's reading the tweet in. And I think this is actually a really good just reflection moment to be like, when you read anything on social media, be aware of that. Really be aware of like, whose voice am I reading this in? Am I reading this in their voice, my voice, or someone who they remind me of's voice? And I think that could be incredibly clarifying and give you great signals to just look at within yourself or sit with. So just want to mention that. But now we're going to dive back in, okay? Of course, we're going to go over every point on this. Again, if I'm reading into things too much because of my own sensitivities, please just feel free to ignore this. I mean absolutely no harm and wish the both of you well. It's just, as a woman who also chases her inspirations and believes in women shining, I saw that tweet and went, what? But yeah, I don't know y'all at all, and I could be off. Just wishing you well. Like, I am a fan of yes and when raising points, but why would your man just straight dismiss your point when you clearly support him and you have so much community and platform that he's clearly shared and gotten support from publicly and on the same platform? I'll shut up now, but it made me go sad face. So that's the final message. So now that we've gone through all of it, I would love to hear. I read this message to my love last night at the dinner table, just as I read it to you. How does it make you feel, baby?
Immediately after hearing that, it stood out so differently than the other comments or concerns that we get from having relationship podcasts and talking about controversial subjects, right? Everyone has an opinion on us. That's completely okay. I understand. But this one in particular really hit me different. And I think a huge reason for that was because of the conversation we had a few hours prior, as I think we're like making the bed or something in the bedroom. And I said, you know what, baby? I feel as if the energy that comes across through the work I have online, in particular, like tweets and stuff, it feels different than what I am throughout the day. Like, I'm joking all the time, like pretty like laughy, giggly, high vibe, I'd say, for the far majority of the day.
Yeah.
But for some reason, I've like adopted how these like beliefs on how these platforms should be used, especially when it comes to writing, because I don't know if it's just I've followed too many of the, high level writing influencers, and they oftentimes treat like very short, pithy, you should statements, whatever it is. And so I took that on as like, oh, this is how you write on these apps. But I've had this way of expressing myself online that hasn't felt like a holistic, authentic version of me. I've had like some good stories. I've had some like tweets that really hit hard and stuff like that, but that only feels like 20% of who I am. And I see now that like I have certain beliefs that are stopping me from fully expressing myself in the way I would like to online. And it's so funny that I mentioned that, and I looked upon it. I explained it to you in the context of like the map of consciousness that we talk about all the time. Not that much on this podcast, but definitely in private work, where we're all have a certain vibration, and that vibration equates to oftentimes a certain emotion. And despite I feel like we go through our daily lives in a pretty high vibe of either in the spiritual paradigm of love, peace, reason, that's oftentimes how we feel on a day-to-day basis. The tweets feel like they're at a much lower level of oftentimes pride or courage, and at most maybe like acceptance, but it's significantly lower than what I feel like the average energy or emotion that I bring up upon the world and how I generally feel inside. And it was a point of just questioning and a little bit concerning for me, but then just something I kind of put to the wayside the rest of the day. But then, of course, just how the universe works, like they put that on your awareness and then they give you an example, like they show you where you're unfree until you're free, pretty much. And they'll keep on reminding you, they'll show you signs to almost guide you on the right path to avoid seeing the same lesson over and over again. And that night is when you read this to me, and I was like, oh my gosh. Because I think there was some truth behind it. What I've noticed with my behavior being online is I've always had this kind of phobia of social media. And in the past, I think it was because I was afraid to like show my true self and express myself and speak my mind on there. But also my entire life, especially through high school and college, I took years off it because I was into the news stories of this is, ruining our dopamine receptors, ruining our brain, ruining society, and just everything that we're being told about it. And therefore, I've created this hesitancy, this resistance towards fully embracing and adopting the apps. And so the only time that I would say, encouraged enough to actually post something is oftentimes when I get this thought after a conversation. It's just like, oh yeah, we should really start thinking this way instead of that. This is really harming us, or do this, that. It's coming from, as you can kind of hear in my voice when I say that, kind of like a prideful way that doesn't feel as like high vibe and loving as I normally am. And so because of that, me only associating on these platforms when I'm in a deviated state from what I normally am, it's getting a distorted image of who I actually am. And so this tweet, even though I think it was pretty benign, I don't think it was like that huge of a deal, I can easily see how someone, especially if they've had the past that they've had, would see that as being disrespectful and see that as not like taking your side, even though that was never my intention. Once that tweet became conscious to me, I'm like, oh crap. Because like that is literally the last thing I want to be doing on social media. The last thing I want to be doing whenever I communicate with you, because you've literally shown me nothing but just the ultimate support as I go through many, many stages and phases of life. And you deserve nothing but that in return, and nothing but love, support, affirmation, empowerment for me. And she put that on my awareness, even though I don't know if that tweet itself was that big of a deal. I can see the premise, the principle of what she was talking about. I think there was some validity to, and that really just like kind of put me in a negative, sad spiral for a little bit, because I really believe that the most defeating feeling one could have is knowing that they've hurt someone they love, and doing so in an unconscious way. A lot of us have unintentional behaviors, little acts we do throughout the day, little thoughts or little side comments we have here, and we're not really aware of the effect it's having on the people around us. And when we want to just love and just cherish everyone that we love so deeply, whether it's a romantic partner or a good friend or family member, and then you find out that, oh my gosh, what you said back then, or that behavior or that habit's actually deeply hurting them, that's a level of shame and guilt I haven't felt in a very, very long time. And that was very hard for me to hear. And it felt like the final straw of me having any gap between how I am online and how I am in person. And I felt this, like I said, very shameful, very guilty. Again, do I think this small tweet was the end of the world? No, but I do feel like it shined light on something much bigger. And me knowing our personal dynamic and just like how healthy it is, and how like I literally do nothing but empower you to the utmost extent, like empower you to literally live your best life every single day exactly how you want. To know that my persona or character I paint online is just so different from that and gives such a complete different feeling, really was just cause of concern for me. And it just caused me to just radically write something about it, a long post talking about the story, and be like, oh my gosh, oh yeah, I guess I'll never do that again. And now my main mission is just to be authentic as possible online, showing the real human part of me, other than like the you should pithy little statements that I learned somehow from other people in the past. So I do believe she probably had a gut feeling to tell you that. And just like we've experienced with many other aspects of life, our gut feeling to say something that gut feeling may not be coming from the exact story we've created in our mind around that situation, but that gut feeling to say something will trigger a different type of growth within that person. And so her having the gut feeling to come and speak up and say this wasn't maybe actually, the truth behind our relationship, but it was meant for me to hear so that I can make these fine-tuning adjustments to make sure that we have a much, much better relationship going forward in all ways. And so I'm immensely grateful for her, and I'm immensely grateful for the men, and of course, in particular, the amount of women that follow you that like are really ride or die for you, and making sure that you get nothing short of what you deserve. And so, I'm really grateful for that. That really was a big moment for me. And a lot of last night, a lot of this morning, I was like sad. And I woke up today, I'm like, things are going to change today. So, I'm excited. I feel like it just kind of sparked a new chapter within me to write from a more authentic place and to understand, like, I know what I'm here to do. I understand my mission. I understand my purpose, and making sure that these platforms, these softwares on my computer, I utilize them to the best of my ability in the most healthy, loving way possible, and engaging them in a way that is enjoyable, and not having this love-hate relationship anymore that was causing that distance, that was causing me to be in the type of mood to send a type of comment that would make something be perceived a certain way. And I understand, because this is just the very beginning of our public lives, that much of what we say is going to be misinterpreted.
Yeah.
And we've had plenty of that so far, and we've learned just to kind of have it roll off our back because it doesn't mean things. But things like this, first, and these are just 1% of what we see. Some of them really stick with you because they're meant to for a reason. There's an area of life in which you can improve if it sticks with you, and this really did for me. And so, I'm really, really excited to be more fully authentic online to the best of my abilities. Something that I was pretty unconscious of beforehand, or at least I wasn't emotionally ready to face. And I'm just very grateful for her, very grateful for you. And you've just been nothing but this like almost like stoic goddess about it, because you're like, this happened, and I can see where she's coming from. How does it make you feel? But just like nothing else. And you weren't like yelling at me. Like it was about the healthiest way for me to like realize that there is some tweaking, some fine tuning I can do when it comes to how we behave online, how I express myself, and it was a big deal. And so, if you guys ever see other behavior like that, feel free to DM her, or if you see from her, feel free to DM me. It's been an incredible learning experience so far.
Yeah, it's just like, thank you so much for sharing, baby. That was so beautiful. And I just love how you're so willing to go there and be so open about these things. And we're navigating a very interesting situation here because we are not used to having a weekly show and then having the communities in person and online, and we're taking on like more and more responsibility. We're taking on more spotlight. We're taking on more visibility. And that comes with a very interesting relationship with DMs like this and messages like this, where you're just sitting there thinking to myself, like, what is my truth in this message, and how does this land for me? And I think that one of the reasons I was so stoic about it was because I am living our relationship every single day. And it's funny because the way that you tweet is almost like your like inflammatory like meh moment of the day, and he like does not act like that. Like it's hard to even like explain this properly, but that is like him on Twitter is the only time he's like that. That's why it's so confusing. But I know that you guys don't know that because I spent all day with this man, and it's almost as if he like runs to our room, goes on Twitter, tweets something sassy at me, and then like comes out and is like, me. It's like kind of like part of your little, it's hard to explain. It's like kind of a game. And so I know what it feels like to be on the receiving end of it because I'm able to receive the like, hee like little moment afterwards. And you guys don't get that. So I could see from the outside and be like, oh, he's trying to undermine you or disrespect you or dim your light. But in reality, he's just being like a sassy little turd after we just like ate a meal and he ran into the room and then like I'm hiding from him. And we do the weirdest stuff, guys. So like we have a very unique relationship. And all I'm saying is like that is the one time of the day that he's like that. And it just so happens to be around social media, which goes back to his relationship with social media. He has a very interesting kind of push and pull. You know, he doesn't want to spend a lot of time there. Part of him thinks he's like rotting our brains. And he even like types his tweets out in Notion and then writes them later because he doesn't like opening the Twitter app that badly. And so there's so many unique like camisms that you guys don't see that I see. And so
it's called autism.
I guess that's to be more specific. That might be the word for it. But it's just like he's a special person. You know, he's not a normal person. And he also has a very complicated relationship with things that most people like spend all day on. Yeah. Like it's like a moral dilemma for him to open up Twitter. And I'm not personally like that. So it took some understanding, like, why is that? Why do we feel so strongly? Like he wants to automate his Twitter so badly, wants to pay someone to tweet for him, like just take what he says and post on there. Like this is a very ongoing conversation on how much he hates social media. So this is a core part of Cam's personality. And I think sometimes, like we talked about yesterday, when you go on these apps, you're kind of like in the back of your head judging yourself for being on them. And that is what comes through in your tweets sometimes. Like you're in more of a state of like judging yourself for your own behavior. And then it comes through in your words and your writing.
Most definitely.
So how does that land for you?
You
guys wouldn't know that.
That lands perfectly. You landed that plane perfectly on the tarmac. I think that's 100% right. I think I've just had such a unique relationship with it for so long. I think I just saw a lot through middle school and high school being probably the first group of people, the first generation, but even within that generation, the first age bracket of people that got this at the age of like 10, you know, iPhones at 10. And seeing how it affect middle schoolers, high schoolers, and college people just made them completely disassociate from their classrooms, from their friends, from everything, their family oftentimes, and oftentimes just getting a lot more mean, a lot more saddened and pessimistic about the world. And so seeing that a lot with people my age, I was just like, oh, nope, not me. I'm not doing that. But that within itself, that separation also isn't healthy.
Yeah.
Creating some type of fear or I can't be on this because if I am, I'll be XYZ is unhealthy too. And so, yeah, now that I'm seeing that doesn't really align if I'm going to be living a public life that utilizes these platforms with this podcast, the handful of podcasts we'll be creating soon. I love to write, and these are the most efficient tools ever for writing. Just everything is going to be based on these platforms. And so it really just feels like it's time for me just to completely reinvent and reinvigorate my relationship with them. And I put out a tweet today. It's like, all right, yeah, time for me to make these platforms as fun, loving, and enjoyable as I possibly can by filling it with great people that I enjoy watching their work, seeing what they do, and making sure that I can create from a place of just full expression. Because the last thing I want to do when I really feel as if we're meant to be an example for so many on how to live, I don't want a distorted image of who I actually am because I only tweet when I'm in a weird mood. Like we said, I was talking to our first ever person to work with us, employee Ashley, today. That's a big news, by the way. But yeah, hello Ashley. Shout out to Ashley. Yeah, I was saying, yeah, like I tweet. I think we all kind of have these moods where throughout any given day, we can be a little bit higher up, a little bit lower down, higher up, a little lower down. I always tweet at like the rock bottom of my day for some reason. And so they're getting like a very distorted image of me.
Yeah. And I'm getting the concerned DMs.
Yeah, you get the concerned DMs. And you're like, what do you mean?
I'm like, what?
We just cuddle all
like
day.
An angel. I'm like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, oh, that 2 minutes in the day where he made that random tweet. Oh, okay. Yeah. So it really is that funny.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you.
No, it's all good. It's just like the version of myself that you see isn't the version the world sees. And I think I can close that gap just by being more of myself that I am around you. Like a goofily. Yeah, I guess goofily.
Goofly goober.
goofily goober.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And just sharing that more online and share more of the other sides of me that a lot deeper and a lot less vain.
It's time to awaken.
It's time to awaken.
You should.
Yeah. I make
Stop
everything seem
using
like
X.
Yeah, for real. Yeah. So I just need to tone it down a little bit.
And like the thing about it, it's so funny because I love this band so much. And it's so funny because you guys I think he's most authentic on the pod. But even here, because we're sharing relationship advice and our perspectives and our stories, we have more of like a almost like instructor hat on or an expert hat on, and we can be a little serious because we're trying to convey this in the best way possible and really like let the stream of consciousness flow. So we get a little giggly sometimes, but I wish you guys could see like a little like camera in our house.
I think that's happening soon.
And I think if you guys saw a reality TV show of us, you would be blown away by how funny and how like exuberant and playful and how much childlike glee and joy that this man has, because it's so like beautiful and so addicting, and it
We can be
feels
comedians.
so good. And he's so funny.
We can be comedians, both of us.
I know, it just gets lost in translation on Twitter sometimes because it's like the 2 minutes where he's not feeling his best is when he lets you guys see who he is on there. So needless to say, this was such a blessing because it brought it to our awareness. It also, I think, hit Cam in a different way because, like he said before, he didn't consider that people might take some of his tweets directed at me to be disrespectful. And that's like the last thing that he would not only want, but he doesn't do that. Like he's not disrespectful to me at all. And I think that's something I want to address now because I want to speak directly from my experience. I'm really glad that Cammy got to share from his heart. And I just want you guys to know a little bit about our relationship because we go on this pod, we talk about relationships all the time, and we've given you so many stories about us. But I just want to share some of the concerns this woman raised. So she had raised a concern about feeling like, I want to make sure you know that you're a leader and that you are powerful and that it's not just men, and I don't want you to take a backseat or dim your light. I want to just speak to that directly because in no way do I feel like Cam tries to dim my light. I have been in relationships like that. And I have been in relationships or dated men who I knew were not only intimidated by me, but could not handle that I was a star. Like, trust me, I know what that feels like. He is not one of those men. He enables me. He puts me into situations to shine. When we are at the walk and I'm giving my Willy Wonka speech in front of everyone, the amount of people who will come up to me and say, I love watching Cam's face while you give the speech because he's just smiling and he looks like so happy and so in love with you. And I just love watching Cam when you give the speech. That's how he is. He is so obviously like cannot hide it, cannot disguise it, cannot fake it, supportive of me. And I never, ever question that. And so it's not even a question of like, does he want to dim my light? Every day we wake up, literally, he wakes up, he makes me a little water with electrolytes and a little thing of cacao, which is essentially like healthy hot chocolate. That's how I describe it. And he has that ready for me. And he comes into the bed and he just wakes me up by saying things like, do you want to say what you say to me every morning?
What, great morning, Baberton?
Oh, you're like, good morning, Baberton. You are the best thing that's ever happened to me. I love you so much. I can't wait to marry you.
I forget I do that.
Just go off on a rampage of affirmations right when I wake up. And I'm just
I
like,
do that,
I just feel like a little potato in my blanket like this. And then he just like, good morning, Baberton. You're the best thing that's ever happened to me. I love you so much. I can't wait to marry you.
Yeah.
You are my wife.
And I think people understand more when we expand our media besides just like stories on X and then this podcast.
Yeah.
Because when they get different sides of us, we're not like kind of in this mode of like only talking about like ships and that thing. When they get like the full broad spectrum of this, I think one day we'll have like vlogs of some sort so that they'll really see it.
Kind of lifestyle.
So hopefully you guys understand that she's the mastermind behind everything I do. Like, listen, I've done a lot, I've accomplished a lot this year, and at a young age, I'm doing really well when it comes to coaching, when it comes to retreats, when it comes to communities we're building, when it comes to media, everything we're doing and where we're going. Let me tell you something. She's the one whispering in my ear. She is the special advisor. She is the real president. She's a real MVP behind everything I do. Truly. Like, I remember I've had so many times where as a coach, as I'm beginning to transition out of coaching, but I still have a handful of clients that I get daily voice notes from. And I listen to those in the car, and oftentimes she's in the car with me listening, and she'll be like, you should really tell him to do this. You should tell him to do that. Or tell him to say this or have that conversation with him. I'm like, yeah, sounds good. Didn't think about it. That sounds good. And so, I voice note the client and tell them that. And they're like, that was incredible advice. It changed my life. I'm like, I don't know where I get it from.
It's another day in the office.
Just another day. But literally everything. It's like, oh yeah, you should do this with Jack. You should do this with Justin. And it's just, she is my compass.
Ratatouille.
That's
I'm
it.
the rat in
You're
the hat.
Ratatouille.
Okay.
Legit.
I'm the rat in the hat.
And so I understand why others may think that, like, especially if they look on a paper, it's like you left your job at Meta that, paid you really well and you had high status from, and you don't talk to the same people you used to all the time back in the day. And like a lot of things in your life has changed. And I can see how that is also the same things that would happen if I was like super abusive and like narcissistic and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it's also the same thing that would happen if this is the first time in your life that you felt like divinely taken care of. They're both leading to a very similar result. And the difference is your energy on a day-to-day basis. And like, I know how you feel. I know how I feel around you. It's just, it's so funny that people like don't understand yet that like you run everything in the house.
and just to go in deeper, because that's on like one aspect of it. Okay. So that he doesn't dim my light at all. I do not feel controlled at all. If anything, I'm the one pulling the strings and I'm the rat in the hat. Okay. He's not bossing me around.
I'm the one cooking. I'm the one cleaning. I'm the one paying the bills.
He really is, guys. So like, that's the crazy thing is that like
that's so crazy.
He cooks and cleans and he pays all the bills and he really does take such good care of me. And he plans everything and he just takes care.
She doesn't lift a finger.
I don't lift a finger. And so I know that like this is like hard to believe because you're probably listening to this and thinking, oh, she's just like completely been manipulated. She's been brainwashed. She can't see it. Like he wants to like keep her in the kitchen or something. I don't cook.
I tell her to stay out of the kitchen.
You don't want me in there.
I've seen what happens when she's in there. I'm like, there's much better uses of our time.
Yes. And he says all the time, guys, all the time, I want to delegate anything that you don't like to do off your plate. That's my number one priority. He is always saying, I want you to prioritize your rest. My most important thing is so that you feel like every single day you are waking up and doing work that lights you up and that makes you energized. He's constantly asking me because I edit this show. So like Listen Before Love is really kind of my baby. And so I do the show notes, I do the descriptions, I post it everywhere. He is constantly asking me, do you want to train someone to do that for you? And I'm like, oh no, baby, I enjoy doing it right now, but thank you so much. He's asked me that like 5 times. Like, can I pay someone to do this job for you? Because if you don't really like it or it takes away from your energy, I don't want you doing it. That's one small example of many. Every single day he's raising things like this. So I don't want anyone out there thinking any of these things in this message are true, because if you spent any amount of time around us as a couple, which is a little hard these days because we don't go anywhere, which probably is a little bit of a red flag. Yeah. So like, I understand how this is all compounding in a funny way. Like the only time people see us is on this couch, on the walks, and then
Great morning. Yeah, which like 20 people see.
And this actually leads me to another part of her message where I do really appreciate this and think that like this isn't lost on me, this isn't lost on Cam. When Cam came into my life, it was very obvious that we complement each other so well that when you have your best friend in your life who also is incredibly talented and can do all of the things, which I would describe myself in this way, by the way. Like, I have a lot of skills and a really broad range. Like, I'm a generalist and so is Cam. So when you meet someone like that and you love them so much, it's just felt like our path to do all of our projects together. And I know that's not for everyone. And I know people on the outside would be like, oh, he's just using her for the audience, and, you know, he has 700 followers and I have a couple thousand, and like, he needs to understand that, you know, he can't disrespect her on her platform with her audience that she's gifted to him. I understand that, and I gotta say, thank you for riding not dying, we're living, riding and living on that so much, because I know that you're right, and he knows that you're right. I put myself out there in so many ways, and I joke all the time that a lot of my followers I've met in person. I think I might be like the person on Twitter who has met the majority of their followers in person, face to face, because of the walks that I do. And I know how hard it is to build a following and an audience and people who care about you. And I also know Cam has benefited from that, because he came on Twitter with 0 followers, and really a lot of the people who got on the map with Cam were because of my tweets, gassing him up.
I didn't have a Twitter account until I met you.
You didn't have a Twitter.
And you're like, get on Twitter. I'm like, all right.
I told him to be on there. And so I understand from the outside looking in how it'd be like, this random man who's 24 just comes into Austin, sweeps this woman off her feet, he convinces her to like buy a house.
The mayor of the city. The mayor of the city.
Convinces her to, you know, he gets on Twitter, he starts tweeting, he's taking her audience, he's taking all the things she's worked hard for. And I know from the outside that actually is compelling, and that I could see in another alternate universe with the same circumstances that could be true, but that is not true here. I love doing everything I do with Cam because he's my favorite person in the world, and our skills are so complementary. I just love hosting things with him. So don't worry, I still have my own autonomy, my own personality, my own writing. I have a huge personality, guys, and this is just the first of many shows. We're not, all of our podcasts aren't going to be together. You're going to get one solo one from me, actually 2 from me. You're going to get solo ones from Cam. But I just want you to know, I hear that concern. He sees it. I see it, but that is not what's going on. He did not bamboozle me into sharing my audience of locked in lovers and cutie patooties with him. It just naturally felt like I love him, and I wanted to launch all of these things with Cam because he's my love. And we're going to be doing this for a very, very long time. And I understand that if you're not in our day-to-day, you'd be like, red flag factory. I get it. Yeah. But there's no need to worry.
It's completely okay. I think just with time, people will recognize that, like, oh, he actually brings things to the table too.
Well, they already know that because like, you're such a great speaker.
You are just so competent that they assume that anyone who you'd be married with may not be able to play ball with that. And that if they're in that relationship, they're just kind of feeding off of it. And that's completely okay for them to understand, because I know one day, like, the trajectory I'm on, and I also know that you'll be even notches higher than that, more than likely. And that's completely okay. Like, whatever role we're meant to play for helping, serving others in humanity, is completely okay with me. I'm just glad we do together. It's so much more fun.
It is.
Like, I literally can't imagine now what it would be like to not be in business with you, for us like to have separate jobs or separate business. Like, what are you talking about?
It just doesn't make sense. And I know, again, that like there are very few examples of this working out well, because most of the time you go into business with someone you're in a relationship with, the relationship goes south, it blows up, you lose money, there's an equity battle, all of that is going on. But that is not happening here. Like, we are on a mission, guys. Like, we're on a bigger mission than we can even articulate in words. We're still trying to wrap our heads around it. But by the end of this year, we will have multiple communities. Actually, by the end of this month, like in the next 2 weeks, we're going to launch multiple communities. And I could not do all of this without Cam, because he is my rock and he keeps me feeling like so expansive. Like, to give you kind of an example of how we play off of each other, we are both very convincing and very kind of inspiring. So we can kind of inject a feeling in someone, give them like a jolt of courage to like have that conversation or approach that girl or do that thing that's uncomfortable. We both share that gift. But one way that we differ is that Cam is such a big picture thinker because he didn't have as much scarcity blocks as I did, that when I start to kind of think about the specifics and get lost in my spirals because I'm so detail oriented, he will remind me of the bigger picture. And if I didn't have him reminding me of the bigger picture and also just like reminding me that it's okay, we're not going to go broke, everything's going to work out, we have to spend money to make money. If I didn't have someone reminding me of these things, I wouldn't be doing anything. I would be hosting this weekly walk for free for the rest of my life and not making any other moves because he gives me that. He gives me that safety and security and confidence that, yes, I have within myself, but that I've waffled on for a while. He was the missing piece of like, okay, now it's really go time. And now I can show up and be this person and have this presence that I know I'm meant to have. But without Cam, he really was like my missing piece and my linchpin. And I know that's not, obvious maybe, but that really is the role that he plays in our relationship. He is always the one who takes the bets. He doesn't balk at like prices. Just the other day, I'll give you an example. We're hosting our communities on Mighty Networks. And I saw that the price tag for an annual subscription to that platform was $1,900. And I like had a panic in my body because I have some money scarcity issues. And I like didn't buy it right away. I've been working through these money blocks, but like that was really high in my head. And I didn't buy it right away. And then I went downstairs. We watched a couple of our shows. And then I told Cam, like, I didn't buy the Mighty Network subscription yet. And then he was like, let's go upstairs and buy it right now. And we went upstairs and we pressed the button and it happened. And that's something that's really hard for me to do on my own right now. And Cam has that confidence and that conviction, and he doesn't have as many money blocks as me. So that's just one of like thousands of examples I could give you. But what I'm trying to convey here is that when you have someone in your life, whether it's like your romantic partner or someone who comes into your life in a business sense or a friend who you really feel like complements your skill sets, that you guys can both show up and pull equal weight in different ways, it's a very magical experience. And you just don't ever want to do anything with anyone else. Like, why would we do that if we could just do everything together? Because we know how we work together. And I know that you will push me in areas that I waffle a little bit and vice versa. So not me gassing him up for that long, but I'm just trying to convey this. Yeah. And this is something we'll probably talk about like much longer because right now everything is kind of in the like when we launch phase. But guys, trust me on this. Give us a year. This is going to be really big. And the way that we're running these businesses is going to be studied. We're really on to something. We're cooking Iron Chef style over here. And just let you know, this blueprint, I know that you look at it from the outside and be like, what the heck is going on over there? This is going to be something. It's going to be some magic sauce.
We're setting up an ecosystem of businesses that's going to dramatically change how people see the economy, how people see products and services, and how people see systematizing the right processes and people in a way that benefits humanity at the highest extent possible. And I am so excited for it. So it may sound like, oh, we got a podcast, we have an online community, but there is a much bigger vision at play. And I think it really has a strong possibility to make a sizable dent in this world. And I'm so excited for it.
It's going to be so fun.
It's going to be awesome.
And the whole goal is to literally just make people feel more uplifted and in peace, joy, bliss, a little bit more throughout their day.
Most definitely. Now, all that being said, let's circle it back real quick to the start of this episode.
Yes.
When the question was asked, I may be butchering it here, but what to do when someone brings up concerns about your relationship.
Yeah.
And I'm just riff on that for a second. What feels right for me around this is we already know, right? Oftentimes, if we are truly honed into our own intuition, we know if the relationship we're in, if we're settling, number one, if we're being treated fairly, number two. And the quickest way to understand if those concerns are valid is if what you have told about your relationship to others isn't the full truth. And so if you only share 20% of your relationship with your good friends or with your mother and father, your siblings, or people that are your loved ones that you're close with, if you're not giving them the full truth, you're not sharing the full story, there's a good chance it's because you know there is something up, there's something wrong with what's currently going on. And so if you can feel it to be true and then they come to you with concerns, I think it's very, very important to listen. But there's also other situations where it's also unique. Like us, we're doing very well. Like we were very much in love and like things are going fantastic. And also like this woman she can bring up concern that would bring something to my awareness that would help me improve. And so it definitely is a situation by situation basis. But I think if we really feel into what feels right for ourselves and what our true current lived experience is, we'll know if this person really is the right person for you, if they're treating you to the level of which you deserve to be treated. And everyone deserves to be treated well. I know it may be, of course, an obvious statement to say, but it's oftentimes not something that's embodied. And so that's a great way of knowing, are they right with their concerns?
I love that. I think that that's a great place to end this beautiful episode. I hope that we gave you a little bit of inspiration as to anytime someone reaches out to you with concerns, share it with your partner. You don't have to say who said it. Okay, keep it anonymous. Allow them to react with honesty. I think the way Cam reacted was just so beautiful. He took so much accountability. It helped him understand himself and our dynamic in a new way, helped him understand social media in a different way. It was so beneficial to bring this to him. And if I hadn't brought it to him, it'd probably be lingering in the back of my head like a little itch I didn't scratch. And so I invite you to just have open and honest communication when these things happen, because that's the only way that we can like bring the situation to the light and then allow someone to react to it. And especially if you feel a little bit in the middle about a relationship, the best signal you can get is bringing a concern to them and allowing them to react. Because if Cam had like thrown a fit and gotten angry and been like, who is this woman? And like, I'm going to reach out to her. And oh my God, I would have been like, whoa. But of course, that's never what Cam does, because we don't do that. We approach everything from a place of curiosity and a place of, wow, okay, I could totally see where she's coming from with that. And it's a beautiful moment to share together as a couple. And it's also really funny because, you know, I know this man and I'm like, baby, I just want everyone to see you the way I see you, because everyone would fall in love with you if they saw you the way you are with me, because I just love you. You're just a literal angel.
Thank you, baby.
So we'll leave it there. Much more we could talk about, but we are so grateful for you for joining us for this beautiful episode. Hope you got little nuggets of wisdom. As a last little announcement, as a reminder, we are launching our communities coming up so soon. By the time this is live, it might already be out. We have True Love Club for high-achieving women who would like to create amazing relationships and attract love or make the relationship even better than it is today. And we have True Brotherhood for men who want to step into their highest selves with wealth, health, and love from the most grounded masculine man I know. So, and I'm not just saying that, it really is true.
Thank you. It's funny how like we brought up so many things I could improve on this episode, and also you were just gassing me up the entire time. I was not expecting this at all, but
Really?
I'm just really grateful for how this episode went.
I just have to let the people know, because exactly, because if the people know how I feel about it, because I don't lie easily, and I get really weird when I feel like I don't have to tell the truth. Like it's a weird kind of like integrity thing for me. So just know I'm telling you the truth. I'm not hiding anything. We are open books, and so is he. And if you ever have any concerns, he takes concerns better than anybody I know. You just send them straight to him. Be like,
Yeah,
hey, I
DM
noticed
me.
this tweet was weird. Just send him straight to him. You can send it to me, but he'll play ball with you even better. So
Yeah.
we'll leave it there. But if you'd like to join our communities, which are going to be so, so fun, they're in the links below. And of course, we still have our beautiful gratitude community going strong for over 120 days. And it'll go on for infinity just about. And we have so many exciting things coming your way. So thank you for being here. As a reminder, if you have a second and you could rate our show 5 stars, hit a little like button, drop a comment. The smallest actions you take like that support our show in ways that you cannot even know. It has been amazing learning that side of the internet, and any little action you take helps. So we love you so much, and we will see you next week.
Love y'all.
Bye, y'all. Love you guys.